Selamat siang, good afternoon. Professor Bambang Brodjonegoro, Minister for Research and Technology, Head of National Research and Innovation Agency of the Republic of Indonesia. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar on the launching of the World Economic Forum ASEAN Youth Survey 2020. This webinar jointly hosted by WEF and IDN Times, digital media targeting millennial and Gen Z. My name is Lubis, the editor-in-chief of IDN Times, and I will be your moderator for this event. It is my privilege and pleasure to do so. We are very honored to be the partner of WEF in this important topic, highlighting about the youth in ASEAN during the pandemic of COVID-19. I remember reading this quote from the founder and executive chairman of WEF, Professor Klaus Martin Schwab, in the article published by Time magazine during WEF in Davos this January 2020. I was there too as part of the International Media Council of WEF. He said, the world as we know it today doesn't need to be the one we leave behind for young people. We can create a more inclusive and sustainable world if we commit ourselves to do so. The title of the article was, Young People Are Right to be Angry, and They Deserve Seats at the Table. Professor Schwab also mentioned that WEF 2020 have added 12 change makers under 20 years of age as part of the youth participant, next to 50 global sharpers who are under 30 and dozens of young global leaders who are under 40. He said in other meetings too, whether global, national, or local, the voice of this new generation must be heard. Intergenerational parity matters. I think this is show the importance of youth for WEF. One of the reasons why WEF did annual youth survey in ASEAN, I think, this year is under the unprecedented situation because of pandemic COVID-19. I'm very excited to learn the result of the survey that will be presented by Joo-Ok, head of the regional agenda Asia Pacific World Economic Forum. And along with Mr. Joo-Ok, we also have panelists, Dr. Santitarn Sathirathai, Group Chief Economist Singapore, Mr. Phoak, Deputy Secretary General for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, Ms. Neneng Goenadi, Indonesia Managing Director of GRAP, and William Utomo, Co-founder, Chief Operating Officer, IDN Media. Thank you all for joining this panelists. You can easily find their profile and track record in the internet. I'm not gonna read the long CV. That's the beauty of digital world. Just one click away, you will see them because they are always in the internet. Minister Bambang will be late and join us later. So I will right away inviting Joo-Ok to present the result of survey. The floor is yours. No, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you very much, Uni. And thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Joo-Ok. I'm the head of the regional agenda here at the World Economic Forum for Asia Pacific. Good afternoon to those of you based in Jakarta, and also greetings to all others wherever you're based. I'm very excited to represent the forum in this meaningful launch event. And if I may, I'd like to start off by briefly saying a few words about the history of this collaboration we have with C Group. Back in 2017, we launched the first edition of this survey and have since been working very closely with C Group, leveraging its wide reach into ASEAN youth to better understand how they're thinking about ASEAN and its integration and also the future of ASEAN. The reason why this report is important and why particularly now is because here at the forum, we strongly believe in data-driven policymaking, and ASEAN youth, not only as the owner of ASEAN's future, and also going back to what Uni was highlighting from what the forum and its founder, Professor Schwab, thinks about the importance of youth. ASEAN youth also comprise a significantly large portion of the demographic for the region, and hence it's critical towards shaping future-oriented policy to listen to and understand the voice of the youth. Santi, who will actually be speaking more about the report itself and the key findings, has already presented the key highlights of the report to the Regional Action Group for Asia Pacific. It's a multi-stakeholder group that we have put together and convened from leaders of government as well as business and international organizations working towards a response and recovery for COVID-19. So together with the C Group, we're supporting all of the organizations involved and working together with us to benefit into their policymaking. As we're living in unprecedented times, listening to and understanding to the people has become ever more important. And this is for all of us also a once-in-a-lifetime challenge. And with the huge demographic dividend that ASEAN has, together with the accelerating trend of digital transformation in the region, we sincerely hope that the findings from this survey will also go a long way into helping the region recover and also build back better towards the future. And with that, I'll also hand over the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you, Joo-Ok. Well, that's interesting. Starting, and I believe some of us, or majority in this event, can relate with the result of the survey. Can wait to learn more from Dr. Santitarn Sathirathai to explain more about the result of the youth survey from WEF.
Thank you very much, Uni. Thank you, Joo-Ok, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone joining us from Asia, and good morning to those joining us from Europe. This is truly the beauty of shifting to online, that we can meet easily multiple screens, and we have a new way of taking pictures together now on screen.
Family time, family pictures.
Absolutely, absolutely. So please allow me to share a screen to share the key results of the report. It is.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's there.
Sorry, just bear with me 1 second. I think, but yes, can you see my screen?
Still waiting, I think. Started screen sharing.
Can you see the?
It's not yet. Can you help?
Let me try again.
Can we help you?
Yes, let me try this one. Does it work now?
Yes, now, yeah. It works.
Great, yes. And that's a slight downside of having this format. Always slight technical difficulties. But it is actually a good introduction to our presentation, because it presents both the opportunity and the challenge that the youth have to face during the age where you're forced to digitalize. Let me introduce myself again. You can call me Santi. I'm a group chief economist of C, the parent company of Shopee, Garena, and C Money. And as Joo-Ok said, each year we have been working with the World Economic Forum to understand youth better. This year, we decided to focus this special issue of the report on the impact of COVID-19 on youth aged between 16 to 35. We managed to reach, using our platforms, to reach about 70,000 youth across 6 ASEAN countries. 20,000 of respondents actually come from Indonesia alone, so that's a massive number.
Oh, okay.
And we have 3 key themes that I would like to share with you. First is the acceleration of digitalization that we're just talking about. And it's truly, as you probably have heard before, COVID-19 is truly the great accelerator. It really has helped accelerate the digital transformation that we have been talking about for years. There's a joke that CEO, CTO try to make this happen, but in the end, it's really the COVID that managed to push it through.
That's true.
Then we really see it. In the numbers, we have 87% of the youth saying that they increased the usage of at least one digital tool during COVID-19. 42% picked up at least one new digital app that they never used before in their life during COVID-19. There's a wide range of, in terms of what apps they use more and less. But if you look at this chart, you can see that the top 4 most popular ones are social media, online education, e-commerce, and virtual meetings. Of course, virtual meetings is what we're doing right here. So that's a good example of that. But I think interestingly as well is that more than 60% of the youth say that among these popular apps, they like the increase in usage is probably here to stay. And this is, I think, very important because this is not just a surge in use, which they are only doing during COVID, but 60% of the youth believe that it will persist, it will be sustained even after COVID-19. So it is truly a permanent change. And it's going to affect the way, not just the way we consume, the way we, our lifestyle, but also the way we do business and the way we learn. Entrepreneurs, for example, in our samples, we found that about a third of entrepreneurs said they have picked up and used more of the e-commerce during COVID-19. About a quarter of this number, 1 in 4, saying they're using this for the first time. So what COVID has done is to push even the late adopters to finally start their digital transformation journey. And I think you'll be interested to know that, in fact, when we look across countries, Indonesia have the biggest increase in terms of e-commerce selling adoption, all the entrepreneurs. And this may partly be attributed to the government policy push to help digitalize SME in Indonesia as well.
And also because our population, right?
So the rate is highest. So it's a percent. Not just population factor, but truly is big adoption. So very interesting results. And also full-time, also among students, of course, on education, 64% of full-time students adopt more online education tool. Perhaps not a big surprise. I think what's more interesting to me is that 38% of active workers, so people who are working in the labor market, also use more online education as well. So this means that even though you're not students anymore, many people actually turn to learn and pick up using online education to pick up new skills, which speaks volume to the attitude toward lifelong learning, which also is consistent with our study from last year with the World Economic Forum as well. We find something similar about open mindset attitude and this growth mindset that ASEAN youth has. Which lead me naturally to the second theme, which is around resilience and adaptability. So we found that ASEAN youth shows a lot of signs of being adaptable and quite resilient. 72% in fact show some evidence of that, but it comes in many shapes, color and form. About 48% of youth show signs that they have learned how to be more resilient, how to cope with pandemic, how to cope with uncertainty. 41% pick up new skills. 45% of entrepreneurs develop new business models. So this is not just about digitalization. It's deeper than that. It's also about adapting in other ways. It's about finding new products, finding new markets, finding new ways to do business altogether. And digital tools are just perhaps more like an enabler to do that. We also found a difference between age. Even though we're looking at youth, it's 16 to 35. There's a bit of a gap there. And they're different. The older youth, 26 to 35, tend to learn more about how to refine and change their business model and new way to earn income. Whereas younger youth between 16 to 25 seems to be just learning and picking up new skills. So they're both learning, but different things. And importantly, we found that women generally picked up more learnings than men do during COVID-19. And this is a very strong result. It's true across all of the learnings. So different types of learnings here that you can see on a chart. You can see the dark blue almost consistently higher than the light blue bars. So among the top learnings are budgeting and value of emergency savings. So it's revolved around personal financial management, which is understandable during this challenging times. Washing hands, of course, we had to relearn how to do that properly during COVID-19. Benefits of family time, all these things. But you can see across the board, female seems to be learning more than men do. And of course, from personal experience, I definitely observe that as well. And that brings me to the last theme, which is the third point. And I think this is important to stress that although we speak about digital transformation, we speak about resilience, it hasn't been an easy times for youth. It has been challenging and they do need support. So when we look at the numbers, we found that 69% of youth saying that it's difficult to work or study remotely. 7% said it's impossible for them. And we found that if people who have below college education and people who live outside capital have a greater tendency to struggle to work remotely or study remotely. We also study a variety of reasons to why you might struggle with remote working, from household family distractions to lack of motivations to lack of access to internet. And we found that there are two most important binding constraints, the barriers that really inhibit you from doing things effectively. And that's lack of digital skills or know how to use digital tools properly, and access to affordable internet. Yeah. So if you lack these two, it's very likely that you really had a tough time coping, adjusting, doing this social distancing. And relating to that constraints, we also found that about 20% of the youth struggle and have financial problems, funding constraints. This is particularly common among people who work as a gig economy workers or entrepreneurs. So those who are not a full-time salary workers, their incomes tend to fluctuate much more widely with the up and downs of the economic status, and therefore they tend to suffer more. We also dig deeper and look into which are the financial sources that they turn to during tough times. And we found that they tend to go to a lot of external sources. First port of call tend to be family and friends. You can see on this chart. Then those with funding constraints also go to banks, but notice that only about 33% have access to bank credits. And I think that may point to the fact that there's still many people who cannot access bank credits during tough times, and they have to rely on many other external sources from banking sector. Governments play an important role, I think 31% there. Digital lending, also 23%. And of course, informal sources still play some role, especially for those who have funding problems and don't have access to formal source of financing. So once you put all these pieces together, I think we identified three important gaps. One is around digital access. And I think what this research has taught us is it's not just about whether you can connect to internet or not. But once you really go deeper into the digital transformation, you need access to quality internet, stable internet at affordable price. Importance of digital skills. As digitalization got accelerated, basic digital literacy become an essential skills to have for everyone. So programs that government Indonesia has, like Bangka Buantan Indonesia, to help SME digitalize and get online education to improve their business is crucial. But more needs to be done. Also to add on top of that are growth mindset, resilience, all these soft skills, which are also crucial for adapting and adjusting during times of uncertainty. Lastly, funding gaps is crucial. And I think in the short term, governments need to probably do a lot. And I think Indonesian governments, like many ASEAN governments, are already doing that. Over the long term, it's a big question of how do we improve financial inclusion so more people have access to a formal source of funding. All of the three, I think, come together, have huge room for public and private partnerships. For example, at SEA ourselves, last year, we launched a program called 10 in 10, where we set a goal for ourselves to train 10 million people over the next 10 years to upskill their basic digital literacy around the region. Collaboration with Indonesian governments, ASEAN governments, as well as the World Economic Forum. But I think there's a lot more that can be done, and we need to really help all three access the skills and the funding gaps. So these are some of the key findings I would like to share. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Santi. It's very interesting insights on the survey. And we already have Minister Bambang, Professor Bambang, the Minister of Research and Technology, and also the head of Research and Innovation Agency of the Republic of Indonesia. Minister Bambang, thank you for always making time for us at the IDN Times. I know you are busy, but we are really excited to hear your views on the survey, a youth survey, ASEAN Youth Survey by WEF. The Zoom room is yours, Minister.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Uni. Distinguished speakers, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. I think it's an honor for me to speak in front of you in the launching of World Economic Forum Youth Survey. Of course, we are now in the era of the digitalization. Digital transformation now becomes even faster due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We used to know that we are preparing for Industrial Revolution 4.0 and digital transformation, but then the COVID came to basically most of the countries in the world, and as a result, we need to adapt to the new situation in which digital transformation needs to be faster. If I can share my presentation, yeah, okay. Go to, yeah, this one. So we know that ICT now becomes a global trend in which the digital technology basically has dominated the economic activities in the world. As you know, if we look at the, let's say, the 10 richest person in the world today, most of them are coming from the ICT business or related to ICT business. And then, of course, at the same time, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, mass adoption is getting faster. Everything now trying to be digitized in order to meet the needs of people, the demand for economic activities. And in Indonesia, for example, since there is a kind of partial lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the sales of the e-commerce getting, I think, quite significantly. I think Pak William can confirm the data later. But the more important thing, the people that never used the, let's say, e-commerce or any online approach before pandemic, now they have to do. They have to adapt themselves by familiarizing themselves into the use of digital activities. And then at the same time, government needs to do more in terms of supporting digital, especially in the field of education. Now, not only in universities, but even up to elementary school, everything has to be done online. And for countries like Indonesia, 260 million, and then the islands country, archipelagic country, then there is an issue of access for some of the Indonesian in order to follow their education activities. So government needs to step in order to not only to provide the infrastructure, but also to provide the direct support for the access of the internet itself. And if we look at what happened with Industrial Revolution 4.0, we know that everything now is really about the digitalization. Everybody already talked about the mobile technology that becomes the heart of our activity today. Even now in Indonesia, we are thinking to develop some kind of health passport. Not passport like the passport that we used to have to go to other countries, but the health passport basically is the application in our mobile in order to capture all the data about ourselves. So, for example, if you take the rapid test today, then the data will show that you already have the rapid test with the no reaction, meaning negative, and then the type of rapid test that you took is already recorded. So everything is recorded. So whenever you have to travel, let's say you want to board a plane and the airline requires rapid test, you can show that I already take the rapid test, not by showing piece of papers, or taking the rapid test right away at the airport, but using the type of the health passport. This is the one that we are trying now to develop in Indonesia, because we really want the economic activities start working, including the transportation activities. And then at the same time, of course, we are familiar with the fintech, digital marketing, e-business, but also now data sciences or big data becomes household name, household word today. Why? Because if you want to deal with the COVID-19, including the health passport that I mentioned, the big data will be a requirement. The access to data, health data, now becomes a necessity. If you want to create, let's say, a program, an app, in which you can identify whether you are in the high-risk area. For example, you go to an area, the application will show you are entering a red zone area, red zone in terms of the number of infected people with COVID-19. And then if the data even becomes more complete, the application will tell you whether you are around people that positive COVID, but they don't have, let's say, I mean, they should isolate themselves, but instead they just go to the public place, bringing their infection, COVID-19 infection, but there is no symptom of COVID-19 itself. So looks the people as if they are healthy. So this is the area in which big data will be very important. And then, of course, cybersecurity will be the security of the future. I remember in one of cabinet meeting when our Minister of Defense talking about, you know, the conventional defense with the Air Force, with the Navy, with the Army. The discussion later talks more about the cybersecurity, because we are worried the threat in the future is not coming from the Air Force or depends on our Navy, naval ability or our Army. It depends on our ability in dealing with the cyber attack or hacking. So hacking now, or hackers now, becomes kind of, you know, problem. And that's why cybersecurity needs to be in the top. And that's the reason why the youth needs to understand about the importance of cybersecurity aside from the conventional security. And of course, this Industrial Revolution 4.0 bring us with the opportunity to increase the level of income and our life quality. You can imagine if you can create so many apps that will be helpful for people activities, that will improve the productivity of the people as well as the income and the quality of life. And then the innovation will be the keyword, because then with the Industrial Revolution 4.0, innovation will be wide open. You can do many things in order to create or to come up with the innovation. However, there is a challenge, and I think as a younger generation, you need to be aware that Industrial Revolution 4.0 will increase potential unemployment, especially if we are not ready with the substitution of these potential unemployed people, and also the income inequality, because then the gap will be very much bigger between the ones that, you know, having big business in IT compared to the rest of the society. Remember, in this Industrial Revolution 4.0, the business landscape has been changing quite substantially. In the past, when you are in competition in the non-digital area, then you might win the competition, but you have stiff competitors. There are some stiff competitors, sometimes many competitors. But then in this digital business, the winner takes it all. Meaning, if you are a winner, then you are a big winner. And as a result, you might have some competitors, but way below your capacity. It means potential income inequality is bigger due to this new business model of digital economy. And of course, as a younger generation, you need to prepare yourself for digitalization, not only on hard skill, which is very important, IT, you know, mathematics or STEM, basically, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. In Indonesia, we are trying to focus our curriculum into more STEM by producing hopefully more, let's say, bachelors or some specialists in STEM. But don't forget, hard skill is not enough. You need to equip yourself with the soft skill. And this soft skill actually will tell you who will be the winner, who will be the loser. The ones that can adopt the soft skill is the potential winner, because you can then do the problem solving, critical thinking, you are creative, and then you can do the good coordination, you have some emotional ability, decision making is very quick, service oriented, ability to negotiate, as well as fast and adaptive thinking. So of course, this is a long list. Of course, you don't have to master in all of that, but at least you need to really improve your soft skill, aside from securing that you have the hard skill. So combining this will create, you know, the potential winners in the generation. And of course, the future jobs will be dominated by the IT for sure. Health. Why health? You know, of course, we are not talking just about COVID-19 pandemic, but in the future, the people will care more about prevention. And when they are talking about prevention, one of them is using more telemedicine. I believe telemedicine will be the the big business in the future. Plus, all the medical action, for example, surgery, now in the future can be done not by, you know, conventional surgery, but by so-called digital surgery or things that develop with the technology. So again, these are very lucrative for the future. Plus, of course, creative or arts will be dominating with the digital support. And then you can see now, if you watch any Hollywood movie, I think 50% done by the real actors, 50% done by CGI, meaning that CGI will become a very promising and very well-known actor or actress in the future, rather than the real actor or the real actress themselves. But potentially, more productive jobs will be there in the future. So let me jump.
Can you also address the result of the survey, Prof?
Sorry, I don't have the material with me right now.
Yeah, because the highlight is from the survey is increasing digital adoption, learning new skill, thinking creatively, developing new.
Is it the one, the Wuni? Is it the one? The one in the
no. So that's not the one, but I think I sent you the survey, and Santi just a few minutes ago present the highlight of the ASEAN Youth Survey, web survey, which is the ASEAN youth generally found remote work and study to be challenging. They also demonstrated abilities to adapt to these new challenges by significantly increasing digital adoption, learning new skill, thinking creatively, developing new business model, and also we also need included improving digital access. We need that, investing in digital skill capabilities, and providing more funding. Maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah. I think the ones that you mentioned about the result of the survey is very much in line with the presentation, although our presentation didn't touch directly the result. because at the end, when we are dealing with the pandemic COVID-19, as well as beyond the pandemic, we know that we cannot say the new normal is only for the pandemic. New normal has to be interpreted as the way for our future. It means whatever we have done in the pandemic situation needs to be continued and enhanced in the future, including, for example, in education and in health. Then, of course, the exposure to digitalization needs to be increased. And in Indonesia case, for example, if you are talking about expanding the digital transformation, the basic infrastructure needs to be improved, I think, very significantly. Indonesia just completed so-called the backbone of our telecommunication, called Palaparing. But it's just a backbone, although it's hard to complete the backbone because it covers all of our areas from the west up to the east, including part in Maluku and Papua. But then we haven't finished in terms of intermediate and last miles. We still need to spend big investment to complete the last mile. So, for example, if we have to continue with this online education, let's say until the near future, then there will be no complaint from students in terms of both access and the price. Currently, there are complaints from students, especially not only in the elementary school, but also in universities. There are two problems with the online education. Number one, the internet quality in some areas. If they stay in their own homes, sometimes the internet quality is not that good. And
the survey also tell that.
Yeah, and I have experience. Yeah, my son is taking the online entrance exams to University of Indonesia. Okay, so we assume it will be smooth, you know, given that this is UI, University of Indonesia, and this is the online entrance exam that should be prepared very well. But what happened during the exam, things are not going smoothly. There are some glitch here and there, and of course it will affect the concentration of participants of this entrance exam. So this is the example that in terms of the quality of the access, internet and bandwidth, I think we need to do the big investment. And aside from that, the other complaint is the price. That's why there are
affordability.
Affordability. There are many requests of government subsidy for internet connection. And of course, this can be solved if we do the big investment in the near future to complete the intermediate and the last mile, so every home will be connected, and parents that do not have to worry that their kids, you know, can follow the proper education. I think that's one area that I would like to comment. Aside from, I think the younger generation now can become the initiator of so-called online community. Because if we depend on our generation, meaning my age, they are not that much into the online activities. They are still thinking the conventional way is the better way. But the younger generation, I think, start thinking the online way or online way is better than offline way. So I think we need to support the ideas of more online way in more economic activities into the mainstream. So there will be no complaint that what we are doing now is just an emergency. Currently, everything is an emergency. People are very insecure about what happened. But if our mind has been set up into more online compared to offline, and online has similar degree of trust compared to the offline, then I believe digital transformation will be much smoother than expected.
Okay. I think that's also, thank you, Professor Bambang. That's also in line with the result of the WEF ASEAN Youth Survey. That behavior will be last beyond pandemic COVID-19. And I think you are not millennial, but you are mastering the Zoom very good. Like, you know, like the millennial thing.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So our next speaker is Mr. Phoak, Deputy Secretary General for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. Mr. Phoak, maybe you can share your experience during lockdown, and based on the survey, what kind of support ASEAN Secretariat can give for the youth during and after pandemic, also the cooperation among countries in ASEAN.
Thank you very much for having me on this panel to discuss about the youth, COVID-19 and digitalization. It's very important topics and also timely. Probably, you know, I should spare you from, you know, all the informations about the declarations and documents and so on. And, you know, just start talking about some of the relevance of how this survey, the finding from this survey can help our work. Actually, the impact is not just on you, even, you know, on us, the Secretariat people. You know, we are famous with all the meetings that we're having, more than 1,600 meetings a year. But now with the availabilities of virtual meetings and everything, I expect that it's going to be 2,000 or something. Because this morning alone, we've had like 4 virtual meeting already, you know, colleagues from across the world. So I think the findings of these surveys are very relevant, and for us, I think it's going to also help. Actually, for the ASEAN regions, we are at a very important juncture this year because we are working on the next work plan. You just listened to all the details presented by Bambang on the initiative that the Indonesian government is doing. But at the ASEAN level, we are now also working on the next work plan, on the youth work plan, education work plan, labor work plan, and our 4IR task force is also working on, you know, the how the impact of 4IR will be on the ASEAN regions and how we are going to respond to that. So of course, you know, the finding from this surveys will also support our work. Of course, I have to say is that, you know, some of the findings are not entirely surprising. You know,
yeah.
we expect that it's going to be the case, but there's also a numbers of indicators there that are very interesting. For example, the outlook of our young people in terms of how the digitalizations will be and how they can leverage on digitalizations in advancing their careers or doing business and so on. Of course, one of the area that is most impacted by COVID-19 is education. You know, all member states are imposing either strict lockdown or social restrictions or partially lockdown or social restriction, but schools, universities closed. So millions of our young people cannot go to schools as usual. So the online education is the only mean. And actually this is some things that our leaders acknowledge. They want to also, you know, find ways on how we can invest more in this. As everyone here knows that the level of development is very different, you know. In Singapore probably is not a problem, or in Malaysia or in Indonesia or Thailand, but then you also have some other member state that still need, you know, a lot of resources to build this. So there's a strong, you know, echo, you know, of among our leaders that this is something that we need to invest more. This is some things that we need to work with our partners to strengthen the platform so that more of our children can access to digital learning. It's not just about, you know, addressing the current need. Actually, when we're talking about digital education, it is also some things that we need in order to address the inequalities as well. You know, especially for our young people in the rural area. But then there's also a questions of, you know, the investment, the money, because we need infrastructure, we need good internet, and this is also something that, you know, mentioned in the report as well. You know, some of the obstacle, you know, for us to further advance the role of digitalization is supporting our member state on the education sector. Labor, there's another major area over there. Because of COVID-19, millions of our workers have been laid off, and they need to find ways, how they can get a job again, with such dire situations. I think that, the recovery road will be a very tough one. So digitalization might be an answer, but then there's also these questions that, we need to invest in reskill, upskills and all that, so that our worker, can also get this type of job. Some of the challenges have been already mentioned by Bambang in the case of Indonesia. That there will be some people who might not be able to catch up with this development and so on. So I think we need to have a new social contract. All the relevant stakeholders must be brought into the conversations. How the digital platform, will be employed in the private sector. I still believe there's a way that technologies, innovations, and human can coexist. But then we have to have a serious conversations, and we have to approach the questions of, on the one hand, maximizing profits, on the other hand, maximizing the well-being of our people. So this is, some of the guiding principles when we are working on the documents. Another areas that I think that we, of course, there's a stimulus, from the member state to support the private sectors, especially small and medium enterprises. Actually, the small and medium enterprises are trying to adjust, the business model, for example, reducing the numbers of workers or holding, some business expansions, or even reducing wage and so on. But, even with all of this measure, they still need the support from the government so that they can transitions in ways that will keep their business afloat. And especially how they can, access to the support of the governments to leverage on technology, leverage on innovation, so that they can have a new model of business. Because if you look at the small and medium enterprises, many of them are now going online, but there are still many, offline. They still do these physical transactions. So when we are talking about, changing the business modality, how can we support all of the small and medium enterprises to go online as well, whether, there are any support, not just in terms of financial support, but even the technical supports as well. So some of this are, among the core issues that we are discussing at the moment, as I mentioned earlier, that we are now working on a numbers of key documents. We expect also at the end of this year, actually we planned this before the COVID-19, but now with COVID-19, I think it's even more pressing, for us to do it. We're now, trying to get out the human resource development declarations and then a roadmap. Actually, we just adopted the declarations in the June summit, but we are now working on the roadmap for the November summit. Of course, digitalizations, the roles of youth, will be, there, prominently. And I'm sure, some of the findings will contribute to the conversation on how we can do that better. On top of that, which is also some things related to what Bambang just mentioned about, we are now trying to recover, and of course we are introducing all kinds of health measures, economic measures, but then there's a big role of technologies there to help us to transitions. And for example, on the health side, we are talking about, hospitals being overwhelmed by, COVID-19 cases, but we still also have a lot of non-COVID patients. So like then there's this issues of, how can we support all of those people? Now it's the question of primary health care and how the role of technologies, can help us to further expand that. Telemedicines and many other, technological solutions available over there. And also even the other aspects of our economic recovery, for example, travel. And one of the solutions that, were just presented, for example, the some sort of app that can allow you to upload all of this health information. So when you go to the airport, that save you from holding all the papers and being infected because of the virus and so on. But there's also, discussions on travel bubble and many other things. And all of this, I strongly believe that digitalization, we have a major place over there. You know, we are going to leverage heavily on technologies, on how we are going to address all of that, and to allow the recoveries to take place, you know, as quickly as possible. But then speed is one thing. Sustainability, resilience, and safety and health are also of, you know, significant here as well. So, you know, this is some of my quick reflections on the survey. We can discuss, you know, further on specific points later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DSG, for the insight from the ASEAN perspective. I got the information that Minister Bambang, Mr. Bambang can stay with us. Thank you. So our next speaker is Ibu Neneng Goenadi, the Managing Director of Grab. Ibu Neneng will give a brief about her experience and her takeaway on the survey. The Zoom room is yours, Ibu.
Thanks, Uni. Can Aidian help sharing the material?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you for having me in this webinar session. It is such a great research and findings we got from the World Economic Forum Youth Survey 2020. We see that this result further shows that digitalization is needed even more in this pandemic. I completely agree with the data points that 45% found new business models and new ways to improve income, as mentioned by Dr. Sati, and then 48% has confirmed that they have learned to be more resilient and more prepared for future pandemics. The findings about the youth behavior who have become more reliant on the digitalization since the pandemic erupted can also be seen from the increasing number of SMEs who turn digital and join the Grab ecosystem. In Southeast Asia, more than 78,000 new merchant partners were onboarded to Grab in March and April 2020. And specifically in Indonesia, from March to July 17, 2020, 120,000 new agents and merchants onboarded to Grab. And this is also part of our commitment to the government from program Bangga Buatan Indonesia, as also mentioned by Dr. Santi earlier. And what is interesting is from the SMEs that have already joined Grab, we surveyed them, and the results said that even though they have gone online, they are still needed to be supported, and this is aligned with the survey results, and they're still eager to learn more. So 76% online MSMEs need more support to improve their online visibility. For example, they want to understand more about digital marketing. They also want to learn how to have a good picture for their products in the platform. And 56% of them would like to know that with technology and data that they have, how can they use it to innovate and to grow more their businesses? Hence, at the end of June, Grab launched the Terus Usaha program with various initiatives to upskill and help Indonesia's MSME adapt and thrive in the new normal during this pandemic situation. This program is aligned with our commitment to be able to continue supporting young people to be more resilient and continue to improve their income and to burn their spirit of among the youth. So that is my sharing from Grab. Thank you, Uni.
Thank you, Ibu Neneng. Really interesting. It's in line against the story, the result of the survey with the experience by the companies or corporation. Our last panelist is William Utomo. William from the media. William can help me to wrap up the response on the survey and also give the media perspective on it. The Zoom room is yours, William.
Yes. Can you guys see my screen clearly?
Yeah.
Awesome. First off, warm congratulations on ASEAN World Economic Forum for this launching of Youth Survey. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to share a bit from our standpoint as a content platform and media. A very quick introduction. We are the leading content platform for millennials and Gen Z. And since inception 6 years ago, we only have one goal, that is to democratize information. And this is very much aligned with Professor Bambang's idea of if someone has access to quality information and they can turn that into knowledge, they can turn that knowledge to improve their life standard and life quality. So I think that has been our goal, and that will continue to be our goal. Our takeaways, our data points and talking points that I will show are taken from approximately 70 million of our monthly unique users across 6 of our media brands. The report says there are 87% increase in usage of digital tool. I think that is really true. As a content platform, we really saw that number firsthand. The number that you see in here, 51 monthly active user just for IDN Times. That is a huge jump from February to March. So prior to the COVID, we only averaged about 45 million monthly unique user. Right on March, we get new 6 million users visiting our platform. So I think that is aligned with the report that ASEAN World Economic Forum has published, and we really felt it in our platform. Also, when you guys mentioned on the report 42% picked up new tool, I think we saw it on the growth of the readership on cities outside of the top 3 cities. So numbers in Palembang, numbers in Makassar, we typically saw that number in a very, very low single digit or less than single digit number. But post-March, after March, we see the number grew to 5% in here, 2% in here, where before, they might not make it to our top 10% of our readership. And when Professor Bambang mentioned that as a digital player, we have to be able to create more income for Indonesians. We also saw that happening, especially in our community riders. So overall, there are more than 10,000 monthly active community riders. From outside in standpoint, community riders can be seen as a content creators. Typically, they would have a primary job, but they love to write, so they write on our platform, and they are rewarded based on the performance of their writing. So the top 10 monthly writers who write on our platform, which is not our employee, they can get an income of more than minimum wage in Indonesia. So think of it as having a secondary income in addition to their respective main job. So I think that is how our platform is supporting in creating and generating additional income for people through writing. And this is a daily life moment. We see this as a window of opportunity to grab people's attention to consume content on our platform. So I think this is relevant to each one of us. Typically, during breakfast or commute, we would open our phones, and those are the windows of opportunities of consuming content. And during work, we will have work break every 1 hour or so. We will have quick downtime. Quick downtime being maybe we are queuing for elevator, we are queuing for public transport. typically very quick downtime, less than 3 minutes, less than 5 minutes, and all the way up when we reach our home. Post-COVID, we see lots of changes. Overall, we see an increase in attention time in general among Indonesians, especially millennials and Gen Z. And with this macro trend of increasing in attention time, it leads to higher content consumption. So if we drill down, the green boxes that we see is typically the behavior change in their daily life. Therefore, they have more attention time. So some people would need less time to commute or no commute at all. Some of them, since they're not present in the office or in retails, they would have longer downtime because they don't have to wait for elevator and queuing and waiting in line and such. An unfortunate event in the case of temporary or permanent layoff, the people will have more attention time. And I think this is true even if we check on our phone, we go to settings and we see our screen time. I think for the past 4 months, the amount of mobile screen time has increased, therefore leading to higher content consumption. So I think if we relate it back to the report that World Economic Forum and SEA has launched, it is in line with the number. And one point that are very interesting that you guys mentioned, 70% believe that the behavior on media consumption and e-commerce will last beyond COVID-19.
Yeah, that's in line also.
Yeah, I think that is also in line. Well, I think it's too early to judge. It's only July, but at least 1 month in, we can already see it happening. And of course, I know some of you do not read Bahasa, but I specifically chose infographics because a picture tells 1,000 words. These are the trending topic of interest during the first month of COVID, which is March. So people would want to know the what and the how. And then 1 month forward, there's a lot of promises of medicine and others. So it is very important that we protect our readers by providing context on certain topics. So chloroquine as a medicine, when it was announced 2-3 months ago, everyone is very excited. But we want to take a step back, provide context, explain everything so that we can better inform our readers. Also about the economic impact, especially on tourism. And on May and June forward, it's no longer about what and when, because people sort of already understand, but it's about how to move forward, how to deal with certain situation, moving forward. So empowering them with knowledge on how to move forward.
Okay.
So I think it is more important than ever to continue our role as a media and content platform. Very important to do the right content sourcing and curation. Very important to do the content creation and distribution, and very important to do the iteration. I think this cycle will make us continue to serve our readers.
Okay.
And lastly, moving forward, we also saw a trend. So we launched IDN Programmatic Out of Home. Currently, we have 400 fleets of cars with double-sided LED screens, which we implement GPS and internet on top of the car. Bu Neneng, the 400 fleets that we have is using Grab's fleet. So thank you for the partnership. And
okay.
We also recently acquired a movie company. So as we see that cinema is opening real soon, and we will launch 3 theatrical movie in the theater, in the cinema on 2021. So our goal has never changed. That is to democratize information, reiterating the gaps that the report says. The first one is digital access. Second one is digital skills. Third is funding gaps. I think this is the right platform to talk about it and to actually take action, because C and Grab obviously a large, I would say, economic powerhouse that can drive employment in the region, from the office of Prof. Bambang and from the office of DSG, from the public sector side. I think what we are doing is also aligned with the goal that you guys mentioned. So we hope that we can continue on collaborating together. And most importantly is bringing the region to a better state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, William. So we only have 10 minutes left, and we got the question from Instagram, from Asia, from the Jakarta Post. The Jakarta Post is an English language newspaper based in Jakarta for Indonesia. For Pak Bambang and Phoak, both of you said that there's need to be investment in connectivity to have better internet access. But that could take years to develop. What immediate response can governments do to address the education inequality during this pandemic? The next question is for Santi, Dr. Santi. Why do you think most youth is learning about personal finances during this pandemic? And do you have details on the kind of funding youth need during the pandemic? Is it for business, daily needs, or to pay education tuition? I will invite Pak Bambang, Mr. Phoak, and Santi, each 2 minutes to respond to these questions. Started from Pak Bambang, ya?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, technology-wise, we can do the last mile connection to every household by 2 things, by building the fiber optic network, as well as the satellite system. Of course, building fiber optic will take time, as you mentioned, and of course, we need high investment. So for the shorter period, I think one solution is to use the telecommunication satellite. And there are satellites way up there that ready to support that. But I think the government will need to make a contact, because for a short period of time, we need to rent the slot in the satellite while we are building our own satellite that could be completed in 3 to 4 years' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bambang. DSG? Okay, still muted. DSG?
Okay, I unmute now. Well, thanks to the technological advances and innovations, the cost of investing in technology is also declining rapidly as well. So one of the source that we are now looking at, and what's the ASEAN member states are doing, is through the national budget. But of course, it's never enough. And they're trying to set up some of the infrastructure so that we can provide education to our young people. They've been working very closely with partners as well to set up some of the digital platforms so that our young people can have access to education. But I think we also need to look at some of the minor, I shouldn't say minor, but also some of the innovations that the member states are employing. For example, community-based kind of educations that also help in times like this to support especially those who might not be able to access or afford the digital platforms. They also take advantage of the phone subscription. Some of the lesson can be sent through messages and so on. And of course, there are some innovative, coming from the private sector, or even, students or academic institution using some of the social media platforms that are available for them. So you can see a lot of, online lectures on math, on physics, on chemistry. So I think all options, I think for the short terms now, that, some of this some of the examples that the member states are looking at and doing at the moment. But of course, I think to have a stronger and affordable and accessible kind of digital platform that requires long-term investment, and that's going to take years, as what the person who asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Santi.
Hi, thank you very much for the two questions. So let me answer the first question first, to why people are thinking more about personal financial management. I think there are two key reasons for that. I think the first one is that it's probably a tough, challenging time economic-wise for everybody, and therefore people start to think a little bit more about how they're spending their money. I think cash flow is hard to come by. It's become really important commodities to have, and therefore they're conserving their cash position, whether it's household or businesses. Also, I think it's a response to uncertainty. They're not sure whether how things will develop over the next few months, and therefore they want to save it for the rainy day. As to question to what are they using the funding for, to what purpose, we don't have that directly in this survey, but we can actually get a few good guesses from putting different pieces together. So we have found that many people who are not actually entrepreneurs in the past start to do start-term business actually during this period. So students, housewife, homemakers start to actually develop business, adopting e-commerce, to see that through Shopee very clearly as well. And we have done a study before, a previous study, which we cite in this one too, and we found that for students, they tend to use about 40% of the income earned through e-commerce to pay for their education. For homemakers, they spend more than half, usually to take care of family. And if you're already entrepreneurs with existing offline businesses, then you tend to use this funding for business expansion or for working capital. So I think it really depends on your jobs. But I think everyone is looking for new ways to earn income, and I think digital technology has made it cheaper for them to do these.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Santi. So that's it. Professor Bambang, ladies and gentlemen, speakers and participants, that's a wrap up of our webinar. On behalf of IDN Times and WEF, I thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to join us here in this event. And we are hoping to see you soon in our next webinar. Thank you, Pak Bambang. Thank you, Joo-Ok, Dr. Santi, DSG, Ibu Neneng, and William. Stay healthy, stay safe. Always put your mask on and do the physical distancing. Good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.